Greetings, I'm Ceallach.
And I'm your DM, Ethan. Welcome to Venture Forth. Previously, the party had traveled through the city of Blackpool and through a mysterious swamp where you guys had all encountered what seemed to be a bounty hunter named Drek, who was coming after you with a myriad of magical items. After you guys defeated him and moved on to the warehouse that you guys were heading towards to find the origins of these crystals, you guys discovered a robot, a warforged, named Thaddeus, all disassembled within one of the crates of the warehouse, and figuring you guys would probably have a tough time taking the rest of his body, you guys just grabbed his head module, which was still activated, and headed off towards the city of Solaris. But not before Thaddeus recognized March as her twin sister, Amity, who she thought was dead. After this realization that Amity is alive, March had decided that she needed to take a journey of her own south towards where Amity was last spotted. And after you guys said your goodbyes, March headed south, and you guys continued on west towards the city of Solaris. You guys got to the city, and Thaddeus told you guys how to get to an inn that he knows. After speaking with the barkeep and having some exchange of words, he arranged for you guys to have a room. And after you guys all went up to the room, you guys all sort of found your place in this inn, and sort of numb from the experience of saying goodbye to March, you guys all fell asleep. Ceallach, you wake up with the first ray of golden light hitting your face. You are sleeping on one of the two beds that is here in the room, and the way that the window is situated, the light hits your face first in sort of this singular beam. And it sort of jostles you awake. So, as you wake up, you look around and you see the rest of your party members still fast asleep. You see Shreya off in the corner, sort of huddled up, snoring deeply. You see Olma laying there. You see Flynn laying there. And you look around the room, and on the wall, right above the dresser, you start to sort of get the sense of this room for the first time. You see above the dresser, there's a little framed picture of a map of Solaris and sort of some guide details of what you might look for locally. There are some places to get food. There are some places to see entertainment. There are some shops around, and sort of just a general guide to Solaris up there on the wall. So as you get up, what would you like to do?
Seeing this, I'll just remark, that's handy. Doing a little bit better than basement in an abandoned bakery. And then I'll stand and make my way over to the window and looking out over what floor are we on, actually?
You guys are currently on the 3rd floor. So you're about, I'd say, about 30 feet up.
Well, I'll look to the streets below and just get a sense of the area. Is it how early in the morning is it? Kind of like 6 or something?
Yeah, just the start of daybreak. Just about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Just seeing what I can see of shops opening and people beginning their days. And I'll touch my amulet on my chest and undo the clasp on the back of my neck and let it fall. And I'll hold it into the light. and just watch the absence of a reflection, because it's this charred, dulled thing now. Well, I'm not done reflecting. Though you very well may be. Let's see what's to be found here. And I'll wrap that up in a little cloth and tuck it into a pocket of my satchel. And then I'll just look over the team and make sure that they're sleeping peacefully, that they seem at ease, given the recent sort of not exactly loss, but something akin to it that we've experienced. And I'll tuck in Alma, whatever bit of fabric I'm sure she's kicked off at this point, and I'll tuck in Flynn as well. And in the meantime, I'll also distribute the gold and silver I picked up from I think it was Drek's body.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and just make sure that that's even. Just leave it in neat little piles next to their stuff, and then I'll take a note of the it's like a poster kind of thing. It's like a framed thing on the wall.
It's like a pretty large framed poster, just like a guide / map to the city.
I'll look at it, and can I see? Is there a temple district? Is that something that they would do here?
Yeah, there is sort of a little ways away. There is sort of a religious worship center there, and you can see on the map itself. Definitely not as like close knit as you were used to in Addersfeld, where these buildings of worship were like directly next to each other, sharing walls. But it's a little bit more scattered out. But there definitely it seems to be some sort of temple district.
All right. Is it labeled any particular way, like, or is it just like, do I get the idea of that? Or is there like a specific title for it?
Yeah, so you don't see a specific title. You do see, however, labeled specifically each of the labels to each of the new gods. So there is specifically one temple, and then a couple of them sort of have like separate outlying temples sort of in the same vicinity, though.
Okay, and how familiar am I with the different names of these gods? Not very.
Not very, but because you are literally reading this on the map, I can give you those names right now if you did not already know them. Let me see. So, first off, you see your eye goes straight to the temple of Zachariel. You would definitely know the name of Zachariel. And then you see next to that one, like pretty close, these are the two closest temples in proximity to each other, is the temple of Leytel. And then off beyond that, you see the temple to Edriel, the temple of Amriel, and the temple of Sidriel. All 5 of the new gods.
All right. Well, take a deep breath. Let's see what we can find, and I'll try and triangulate where we are in relation to that area, and I will head out.
You can see there is a little "you are here" dot on there. It's a little red dot there. So yeah, you sort of get the sense of where you are, and as you head downstairs, you pass by the head of Thaddeus that is currently deactivated there on the just sitting on the dresser. Are you going to leave him there? Do you choose to take him?
Ooh. He's deactivated?
Yeah,
he's
so
sleeping?
It's what he would qualify as sleeping.
Robot sleep.
Robot sleep, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, from what I know of Thaddeus, I don't know that this would interest him. So, does he seem safe?
Yeah. He seems perfectly secure.
And he was like friends with the innkeeper.
From the conversation that you heard earlier, it did seem like he had possibly stayed here before. He knows the innkeeper. There was like an exchange of. It was a rather quick and informal exchange between them, and you also heard him specifically asking for, like, "Hey, can you contact this person that I know?" And you had sort of heard that going on as well as getting the room.
Right. Okay. Do they have any like? is there a breakfast with this hotel? Is there some kind of like quick cracker I can grab on the way out?
As you walk downstairs, there actually is sort of like a complimentary sort of continental breakfast sitting there.
Continental.
It's like you
Wonderful.
see some fresh fruit out there. You see some pastries and baked goods that, for the amount of money that you're spending in this inn, which is not really that much. This is a pretty good breakfast. Like you're a little bit surprised.
Right. I will grab a couple pieces of fruit to munch on my way out.
Okay. Awesome.
I'll put like an apple in my bag, and I'll just take a banana and just chomp on that as I make my way out the door.
Okay. Awesome.
Morning, as I pass the purveyor of this.
And
feast.
it's a young dwarven woman who she's sort of behind the front counter. She's got a tablecloth out, and she's sort of wiping down the front area, just sort of waiting for guests to wake up in the morning. And good morning to you. And she gets back in, sort of putting her shoulder into it, wiping down the counter. Okay, as you leave the inn, you sort of get your first full look at a city street of Solaris. As it is still pretty early, shops are beginning to open. You can hear, the horse-drawn carriages off in the distance, clopping down the street. You see just across the way a fruit vendor is just opening shop. You could see that sort of swinging front door being latched open, and you can hear conversations start. You see that same fruit vendor looks next door to a little bakery, and as the dwarf comes out of the bakery, the fruit vendor waves over and she says, "Hi, good morning," and another friendly wave is exchanged. And you also see the garrison of the city, the morning shift just beginning to walk through. You see two guards walking side by side, coming from your right to your left, and you can see just on the street down the way another two guards standing side by side walking down that road in almost full plate armor, with these battle hammers at their sides, seeming to be like a pretty standard uniform, but very nice armor. And you can definitely hear them as their armor kind of clanks together as they're walking down the street.
How do they appear? Do they seem like agitated or stressed?
Make an insight check.
Okay. 15.
They are definitely like, what's the word? They're on guard for sure. You don't get the sense that this is for any particular reason, but you get the sense that like these are dwarves who are here to do their duty. They're here to keep the peace, and they're going to keep the peace at any cost. So they're definitely like determined, but not for any specific.
But they're not like
cause
frenetic or any sort of.
Okay. For sure.
Okay.
And
just
the way that
note of that.
Yeah, the way that they're walking too is at a normal pace. It is sort of like they're walking step in step together, but it's not rushed at all. Okay,
good to know. I'll sort of duck my head and I'll step into the streets of Solaris.
Okay.
I guess I'll just head out toward what I presume is the Temple District.
Okay, awesome. So you head down the street, and again, on your right and left, you see more and more shops opening, friendly waves being passed towards one another. You see a lot of like the community sort of waking up and waking up together and sort of getting the day started together. But none of these niceties are extended towards the guards, nor the guards extending them towards the people. You don't see any sort of like fear or cowering when the guards come by. It's just, there's like just no interaction. It seems like these guards are on duty and they have no interest in the pleasantries of the early morning life of the city. But with that, it's a beautiful day. You can hear some birds chirping as you walk down the street, conversations happening. It's a very nice, comfortable environment. But the more you walk, the more you realize like this is a dwarven stronghold here. The city of Solaris is definitely like a foothold in the dwarven army of Kaldur. So you are the only half drow rather, that you have seen at all so far. Definitely no humans or elves here. You see a couple of, every once in a while, you'll see a couple of like furbolg crossing the street, and you see a couple halflings every once in a while, some gnomes, and a tiefling every once in a while. But you sort of feel like you're sort of out of place here a little bit for more reasons than one. But eventually, walking down the street, you don't get stopped by anybody. You don't really get any weird looks, but you eventually get to the Temple District. The first temple that you come across, just in the way that you're moving across the city, is the Temple to Amriel. And as you pass it, this temple is sort of covered in plants, but these aren't. It's not like overgrown. They seem to be sort of like these younger plants that are just beginning to creep their way up the side of the building. Not been here for very long, just sort of seems to be newly planted. But this is the first temple that you come across. Do you have any interest in looking around, staying inside?
I guess the main thing that I would be taking note of is just like how it's being treated. Like, is it like seeing these plants? Does it feel like it's being left to the growth, or does it feel like it's been? Or I guess what I would say is if I were to think back on Ildoria's temple in the Shadow Timberland, like how would it compare in terms of how it was being treated by the people tending to it?
Sure. I'm going to have you make a nature check for me.
Okay. Fine. 11.
You do see like a couple of like gardeners out in the front.
Sorry, 12.
Oh, okay.
Oh, actually, awesome. The gardeners are assassins.
Yeah. You see a couple. They are like tending to the plants and all of that stuff, but they're also wearing like, it looks like some religious garb, some robes that are like these deep earth browns and greens, and have like these this kind of cool like vine embroidery on them, sort of this vine symbology going up these cloaks. And from what you can tell, like they are taking care of the plants, but from what you saw of the Temple of Ilduria, that was overgrown over centuries and a millennia of plant growth and seasons of plants growing and dying and harvesting and the plants growing back. This is like very, very new, and these gardeners are sort of kind of nurturing and trying to make sure that these plants and these vines and these flowers and these trees have a chance to reach maturity.
I will admire that. Just take a second to observe and have a feeling of a look of respect across my face.
Okay.
And then I'll move on.
The next one that you get to is the Temple of Sidriel. And you can see that this temple is... Each of the temples are pretty far spaced apart. So you walk a little bit, and you see that there is... where on the other temple, it was mostly just like plants and the life of the place sort of being overgrown. This one is very like, it's made of stone, and you see a very stoic half-orc man statue just standing guard right out front, like very rigid in his posture and holding a smithing hammer, standing right in front of a what do you call it? An anvil. Yeah, that's what you see here. It seems like this is a very like well-kept, rigid stone building here.
Okay, that's enough for me, I think. Unless there's like, fire bursting out of the door or anything I can glimpse.
There is not
at an arm's length,
No, a surprising lack of explosions.
What I'm used to.
Next up is the Temple of Edriel. And here, however, you can see as you approach, you can see that there are these glowing runes on the outside of the temple, just inlaid everywhere. The frame of the door is inlaid with runes. There are windows up top on like maybe the 5th or the 6th story of this building that are all that have runes on the outside of them. You see these cauldrons on the outside of the temple, 2 on each side of the door that are engulfed in this magical flame that keeps changing color from red to orange to yellow to green to blue to purple, then back to red, as this fire is like changing colors and like kind of moving in these weird ways. It almost looks like the fire is like dancing within these cauldrons. As you walk by, you look inside and the doors are wide open. And as you look inside, you see a congregation is already formed for the morning. And you can see that there are 2 dwarven women at the front near the altar of the front of the temple. And they are standing there with their arms wide open, their eyes rolled back in their heads. And from their extended hands, this golden energy and this sparkling golden energy is flowing forth from their fingers and enveloping the congregation as the congregation is sitting there also with their eyes closed, sort of this low hum to themselves, as they seem to just be like basking in this magic that is being put forth by the dwarven women at the front.
Do I recognize this like style of magic, this spell, this school,
Yeah, make a Arcana check.
Oh, brutal. I do not. It's a 6.
That's a 6.
Yeah.
You recognize it's like definitely a religious practice. It's not like, it's definitely got its base in religion. But you don't recognize the school. You don't really recognize what this might be.
Okay. Is it like peaceful, or is it like what's the word I'm looking for? Like trancy, like.
It is sort of like the people in the congregation, as well as the two dwarven women at the front. They do seem to be in some sort of trance, but it doesn't seem to be malicious in any way. Like the people who are sitting there are not fighting it at all. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it does almost seem sort of trance-like.
Oh yeah, tantric was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, yeah.
Kind of in that, but maybe less intense. Cool.
Okay. Moving on. The next temple that you come across is the Temple of Leytel. This temple has already begun its morning worship, and you could tell that it had begun its morning worship about 4 blocks back as music is blaring from this temple. You walk up, and it's a very similarly constructed stone temple, very similar to the previous ones, with no real symbology on the outside. But the difference is you could see that there is like this, where the other temples sort of came up to these rigid points at the top, these peaks and these spires. This one has got this dome at the top, and you can see like these little slits across the dome, all going around it. And as you approach, you sort of feel the thumping of the drums as you approach. And as you get closer and closer, you can feel the different instruments, the wind instruments, the string instruments, as you get closer and closer. And you can feel like this dome on top of the temple is like amplifying this sound, and sort of reaching it as far as it can get. And as you approach, it is a party in there. There is music, there is food. People are singing and dancing and having conversations with each other, and this place is just packed. And if you had come across this perhaps in the evening, you would have thought that this was just like, oh, this is where people come to just party and drink and get drunk and have a good time. But you don't see any sort of alcohol being passed around. This is just people singing and dancing and having a good time, and sort of worshiping that way. Wow. And that's what you see in there.
I will look upon this kind of aghast. Kind of like, is there symbology on the front of this, on the facade of this thing, or is it just this dome structure?
There is some writing in Dwarven. Do you read Dwarven?
I do not.
You do not. Okay, so there is some writing in Dwarven, as well as some like you could see like up on sort of like etched into this smooth stone portion of the wall. You can see a lute, and you can see some like it's like lines coming off of the lute, but they're sort of in a way that makes it look like this. It's music. It's playing something musical. And gotcha. Then on the other side you see sort of a drum and the same sort of visible music coming off of it.
Mm-hmm. I will just sort of the juxtaposition of what I take to be temple architecture, even though even the lute seems kind of crass to me. Kind of that and this raucous event, and just be struck by it.
And as you're observing, a dwarven woman who is wearing this very like flowing dress with like these individual strings of fabric coming off from her waist and reaching down below her feet and kind of dragging across the ground. She's moving, and as she's sort of like dancing and sort of expressing herself just outside of the temple, she's like doing these spins and these turns so that the stringed fabric portion of the dress sort of flare out. She spins and she doesn't quite notice you, and she sort of bumps into you, and she goes, I'm sorry, I was just enjoying myself. You look like a good dancer. You want to come in?
sure.
Yeah, come on, it'll be
not?
fun. And she like aggressively grabs you by your hand and yanks you in towards the crowd of people. And as you are led, are you going to be led inside the temple?
Yes, I will, against my better judgment, allow this woman to take me inside.
She grabs your hand and she brings you inside this temple. And as soon as you kind of cross that threshold into the temple, you like, this is like an incredible feeling. It's so strange and foreign to you, but you get like this incredibly warm feeling inside of you. And you sort of think back to like feelings that you've had for people in the past. The feeling of this sort of feels like love. Like you feel love when you come into this temple. And you're not sure if it's just like the energy, the people around you, or just the temple itself, but you feel like this acceptance and sort of like this mutual love between you and this place. And as you're being yanked in, you're bumping shoulders with people, and you're sort of being pushed back and forth. And
are they? It's mostly dwarves, though.
It is mostly dwarves.
So I'm like 4 feet taller than everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But you're still being like battered around. These they're dwarves, but they're dwarves.
They got some altitude.
Yeah. They got that sturdy base. So you're sort of being knocked around, and eventually you sort of are pushed into this sort of open area where the music sort of is a little bit quieter. There's not the thumping of the drums, and almost it seems magically there's this like bubble of more of a quiet area off to the side. People aren't dancing in this area. Music isn't being played too loud, but you just hear like a singular violin, and it's playing these long and sort of mournful notes as you sort of enter this bubble of silence. And you see a old dwarven man, long black beard, braided in it looks like 7 or 8 different types of braids, long hair that extends down to his back that's also braided in the same number of ways. And you see him playing this violin, just very sort of solemnly to himself, sitting there.
Have I been sort of like pushed here by the throng, or
you have been like with the crowd? You were sort of like pushed into a mosh pit, and then as soon as you were thrust out of it, you sort of stumbled into this bubble of just kind of quiet energy here.
What manner of temple is this? Is he have his eyes closed?
No, his eyes are open and he sees you.
Does he look like he's focused on playing, or does he look like he's in the spirit for conversation? Can I tell?
Make an insight check.
19.
19. As you get here, he looks at you sort of shocked for a moment. But then after a second, he sort of warms up and is like, now his playing is directed at you. Like before, it seemed like right when you were pushed in, it seemed like he was sort of having a moment and playing to himself, but now he's sort of playing for you. He's got a little bit of an audience here. So he's totally comfortable with you being there.
Is there a place to sit?
Yeah, right next to him on the bench.
I will sort of like keeping eye contact to make sure he has the space that he needs to play, sort of like gingerly tiptoe my way to sit next to him and just listen. I'll close my eyes.
As you sit there and as he sort of continues playing, he continues to play this it's like a slow and like mournful, beautiful song on the violin just by himself. And as he's playing, you know it's just him, but it almost sounds like there are 10 or 15 of these violins playing at the same time, sort of playing in this perfect harmony with each other. And as you sit there and you close your eyes, it's very nice. It's very soothing. You could sit here for hours.
I thought when the hum went away that was the end of music for me. I'll slowly open my eyes, and does he have a tip jar?
He does not. No.
Okay, all right. I don't know if it's that kind of place. I'll just slowly stand and sort of bow my head to him and just whisper a word of thanks. And I'll try to like tenuously approach the crowd again to try and like sidle my way through again and depart.
All right. You get another couple good knocks as you are making your way back through this crowd.
All right. Yes. Hello.
But eventually you make your way to the front of the temple, and as you walk out to the city street, your ears are still ringing. You still have sort of that, like, you know, when you hear like blaring music and then all of a sudden you're in a very quiet place and sort of that thumping is still in your head and your ears haven't quite adjusted yet. You're experiencing that as you walk outside onto the street again. And you continue on.
Is there, as I'm making my way out, is there like, can I tell who the clergy is? Can I tell like if there's any sort of structure to this place? Like, is there hierarchy?
Yeah, make a religion check.
Okay. Natural 20.
Natural 20.
Religion check, natural 20.
Nice. So there definitely seems to be a hierarchy here. As you're looking in, there is definitely a band and an audience. A lot of the audience is playing instruments of their own and sort of playing along, but you can spot that, okay, there is sort of like a main band playing here. A lot of the people who you passed walking through who are playing instruments and doing all of that stuff probably brought their own instruments from home and are playing along with the band up on the stage. But you do see there are a couple of dwarves up on stage who are wearing like these red robes that are tucked into a golden belt around their waist. And they are rocking out. You see one guy's on the drums. One guy is like, he's playing a harp, but like a rock and roll version of a harp.
Okay.
And he's going along. He's into it. He's like moving his body with the beat of the music. And you see a couple of like violinists. You see some bassists, and just this band that is up there. You see next to them also in sort of these lighter red robes, almost like more of like a faded maroon, like a light maroon almost. There's a choir that's singing, and there's about 10 of them, and they're belting out lyrics going along with this music. And you see on the other side, in similar sort of light maroon robes, you see a couple of like interpretive dancers, and they're moving around in different ways. So it seems like the people who are up on stage in the maroon and red robes are like members of the church. Everyone else here who's singing, dancing, participating, they're all just in sort of the quote-unquote audience congregation of,
Okay. I will just exhale with bewilderment, nonplussed, and I'll turn away and make my way forward.
Okay. And right as you sort of back out of this temple, and right as you sort of turn your shoulder to move away, you feel like just a very slight urge to then just turn back and just walk back and just kind of take another look. But it's a very subtle feeling, so you keep walking, but you just note that it's sort of a strange, like you just wanted to look back and take another look. And finally, you get to the Temple of Zachariel. This temple is a stark difference from the other temples. While it is still made of stone, the stone is much darker. It's almost reaching like this black. As you can see, this dark ash, almost like emanating from the base of it, almost as if there were fires set right along the base, and the ash was allowed to climb up the sides of the walls. And you can see the same sort of thing around the doors and around the windows, where it seems like a slight fire was lit around them and the ashes were allowed to sort of stick and stay. And you can see where the Temple of Edriel had these 4 burning columns with fire that was alight with different colors. You see a singular massive cauldron outside of this temple. And there is a fire there, but it is just barely the embers. If left unattended to, this would completely die out. But you can see 2 dwarves and a gnome and a halfling who are there with like these fire pokers, and they are there with these different pouches that seem to have different ingredients on them, just giving the fire enough to just barely stay alive and just to keep those embers and to create the ash that's beginning to swirl around the cauldron. But they are very meticulous with how they keep this fire just barely going.
And is this in the front? It's on the...
This is directly in the front, yeah.
I will just watch that. So much of this is like I'm like a shadow, sort of just tracing the edges of all of this, and I'll make my way past them, watching as I do, trying to sort of get a sense of the rhythm, the mathematics of when they are prodding this thing, when they are adjusting the edges of this. But I will head inside.
Okay. As you head inside, you look around and there's not... It's very different from the temple that you just came from. Not very many people in this temple. But the people that you do see, a lot of them are wearing like these like ashy gray leather. It looks like leather armor. And it is sort of crafted in a way that is more for decoration than for actual use. But there are these leather pieces. There's a nice like gray leather chest piece. There's some nice gray leather shoulder pieces, and they extend down to these this sort of gray, almost like a kilt that runs down each leg. And as you look around, you see everyone who's wearing this religious adornment, all of them have their fingers sort of singed and pretty much their entire forearm engulfed in ash, as if they had just dipped their hands into a campfire. And you would think, if you were just passing one of these people on the street, you would think it was just like dirt and they had a bunch of like dirt all over their hands. But upon closer inspection, it is ash for sure. And as you walk in, everyone's sort of minding their own business.
Is it arranged in a structural, like, what are people doing? Are they cleaning? Are they performing rituals, or are they
yeah, for sure.
Are there altars, those kinds of things?
Yeah. So as you're looking in, there are these three altars. There's sort of one big one right in the middle of the building, and then there's two smaller ones on the opposite corners from you. And as you're looking up, you're looking into the big one, and it's just this big circular pit in the center of the room, and it looks like a campfire died there. It looks sort of like a pit for a bonfire, and you can see chairs and benches sort of in lined up in a semicircle on either side of it, facing in towards this pit. And then you see two smaller pits without any chairs or anything on the far corners.
The other altars are also pits, or smaller versions?
Yeah, just smaller versions of, looks like a bonfire pit, pretty much.
I will walk right up to that. I will like put my toe to the edge of it, like get that close.
Okay.
I'll unwrap just the hand of my bandaged arm, and I will hold it, like leaving the bottom of the pit in soft focus, and hold my hand over the pit. And I'll look down is it dead ash in this pit, or is it also embers?
It seems to be dead at this point. It doesn't seem to be like you can see all of the chairs and all of the benches and stuff that are around here, and they're unoccupied. It seems like there probably hasn't been a worship service yet this morning. So the fire has not been stoked yet for the day.
Mm-hmm. And is there there's no other like physical representation of any, there's no statue or emblem or anything anywhere, correct?
Make a perception check. 15. As you're looking around, it was very difficult to notice, but now that you're specifically looking around for it, you do notice out of the stone walls, there's sort of this part near the center of the building that comes up and sort of creates an arch over you. And as you look up, you now notice that the arch is not connected in the middle, but is in fact on one side a cloaked figure sort of bending over and looking down towards the fire, and the same thing on the left side. And you can see it's like this torso of a figure with a hood up that's just coming up over you, almost these two figures creating an arch over you. But these things are massive, reaching probably 40 feet up in the air.
I'll look up into the I imagine
very nondescript. Yes.
Nondescript, yeah. Visage of this statue or sculpture. And you're the one then. You're the one I want to speak to. I've come to you. I've come to you from one pit to another. And I think I might have a lot of questions, a lot of things to learn. I don't know if I've lived a good life. If I've done right. I think I have, but now I stand here on the edge of something. I'll look down into the pit. Something that terrifies me. I have to step forward with a sure foot. I have to know that I can trust in not just the might, but the cause, the mission, the noble goal that I set before myself. I'll not dive into a pit out of desperation, out of fear. I want to do it with courage. I want to do it with love. I know gods aren't the best with the words of us smaller beings. And you've already done so much for me. Little Oma. Shreya. Even Flynn to some extent. You've given me the strength to keep them moving, keep them walking, even through the mud. But give me a messenger. Give me breadcrumbs that what you're up to isn't just some grab for power, some greedy usurpation, some bloody conquest of Andel and Ganbaldir. The people out there are dying. Your people and theirs. And if we're just here to bicker and squabble, I can't be a part of that. I have to know that what we're doing here will help the world. Will ease the pain of others. Will rid the world of evil. So, if you might, just give me some pace along the way, and I'll follow your lead. I'll serve your purpose. I know you're not the type to be bothered with confessions or prayers, even. At least those of your congregation that I've met, your followers, your worshippers, they've not been the kind to mince words. But I think the ways of the old gods had had the right ends in mind. They just fell to fear. Or they didn't give enough breadcrumbs to their followers. They let us go berserk with terror and powerlessness. To eat each other, ourselves from the insides. I know that power is not infinite, and I worry that evil might be. So I think that it's these little shreds, these little crumbs of hope, these little instances of love, kindness, those are the things that you must do your best to provide if you truly want the people of these lands to win out over evil. I'll quickly have a moment of sort of bashfulness or realizing the sort of length of how much I've been talking and the otherwise sort of quietness of the area. And I'll just hold my tongue and try and be very still so as not to be awkward or strange in this place.
As you are standing here very still, you look around, and at this point, there's about 15 people in this temple, and all of them, you look and notice, all of them at this point have completely stopped what they're doing. There was a man at a far bookshelf who was taking down some books and putting some back. There was one over in a corner sweeping up and just cleaning up. There was a woman sort of getting the pit ready for a possible service on the other side. And all of them, as you were over the course of speaking, now you look and you notice all of them have turned directly towards you and have bowed their heads. And just have their heads bowed quietly.
What?
And as you then sort of come to quiet and sort of stand there by yourself, they all sort of, with their heads still bowed, sort of give themselves a quick nod, pull their heads up, and continue back to what they were doing.
I will look around in kind of awe.
And turning around, you see a woman sitting there on one of the chairs directly behind you. A dwarven woman with this sort of short golden hair and a short golden beard, more blonde actually than golden, but seems to be middle-aged, but a very youthful face and a very youthful presence. And she had also her head bowed. And as you're looking around, her head comes up and her eyes meet yours. And she says, well, the truth comes to all of us in time, but not always according to our time, it seems.
What do you mean? What do you mean, the truth?
Well, the truths of this life, the truths of your journey as you go across the bounds of this landscape that we call the world.
You
seem very confused. Would you like to come and sit with me? I would love to have you sit with me and speak of these things.
Oh, yeah. That'd be grand. I sit down next to her.
Okay.
Sort of holding myself as I do.
Yeah. It is very obvious to me that you have seen the truth in the embers. But what is the extent that you know of these?
To me, truth was always supposed to be a solid thing, a beam of light, if you will, a linear path to righteousness. And in the embers, truth flickers about and singes your eyebrows. It's all consuming. And you have to peck through it to find it. Wonder about this truth, Adam. Because I've seen such words weaponized. How do you know that the truth you follow is real?
I know it is real because it is my own. I sit here and I proclaim what I know to be true, or at least at this point what I believe to be true. And as I look around here, I see him over there in the far corner. His truths are different than mine. And he believes in his, and he knows his to be true. And that is his source of comfort, just as I believe in mine. Not every truth has to be the same. I think that this is where the old gods got it wrong. Is there was one way to do things. There was one belief. And then once you strayed from that path, you were labeled as what? Evil? Deceitful?
Worse.
This is where we try and be better than that. Each truth is different, and only in searching through yourself, you'll find those answers in that truth.
But, I gesture to the pit and to the arch. Doesn't he care what you decide your truth is?
He doesn't care what the truth is that you settle yourself upon. But as long as you come to that conclusion, that is what he is after. Or at least in pursuit of that truth. As we are not all there. We only know the truth of what our lives mean, why we are here, why we are doing what we're doing. We only know that once we cross that veil and find ourselves united on the Argent Plains. Beyond time, beyond any of this physical body. That is where we find our truth, but in the meantime, we must be searching for it.
I've heard these words in my dreams. The Argent Plains. This is where the ashes go.
That is where the ashes go. And they fall to the ground and they form a dirt that is lush and has the nutrients to bring forth the new life and spring this endless garden before you, where you spend all of eternity tending to these flowers and these trees and these vines.
Have you seen it? Them, the plains.
I have not, no.
And Has he spoken to you?
To me directly?
Aye.
No, I do not believe he speaks to anyone.
At this, I subconsciously, clench my fist, my burned fist, around the scar on the center of my palm. Right. Each of us our own truth. What do you make of the war? What do you make of the violence? Do you think it's right for Caldor to try and push others to take on this truth? These multitudes of truth.
I think it is the right thing for them to not push that one truth onto a bunch of people, but to push on them the choice to choose what their truth is. They do not know that their truths and their lives are being chosen for them. We are fighting them to give them the choice.
Right. Hadn't thought of it that way. Spent some time in Addersfeld. And recently I had to spend a night in a basement in one of the abandoned buildings in the slums. And just outside of those slums, there's an encampment of refugees, people pushed out of the city. And I think it might have helped to create both the abandoned buildings and the people outside who could be tending to him. And I did it all while enjoying the sunshine. It's hard to know what your choices are.
You speak of the sunshine, and I have found that while the sunshine illuminates, it also blinds.
Aye. If I sort of look her over a bit, her facial structure, her hair and such, does she I can tell that she's young. How I can tell sort of how many decades she's been alive, roughly?
Yeah, so looking over her face, and sort of what you know of dwarves, like sort of middle-aged, which in Dwarven would probably be about 175, maybe approaching 200.
Did it scare you when it changed? When the usurpation happened? Weren't you afraid?
I was terrified. I thought that all was going to come to an end. And then I found my purpose. I found my truth, and I found religion. I was not the person that you see now, 30 years ago. I was merely a person going about my life, thinking that things had to be one way, and then after the shock of the gods dying, I did not know how this could happen. After that shock wore off, I was enlightened. Was no longer afraid, as I knew that better days for me were ahead. And so far they have been. And I will tell you, once I made that decision, and she kind of reaches down to the leather armor that's on her forearm, and she kind of undoes a couple of the knots, and she peels back the leather, and she pulls up the cloth sleeve. You can see a charred forearm and hand, very similar to the way that yours is charred, and you can see like how it continues to peel back and sort of this exposed flesh there, very similar to yours. She says, "And once I accepted that this was going to be my life, it was painful at first, and it is painful every day. But it reminds me that I have the choice to find myself in this world. And this is the mark that I carry with me every day."
I sort of look at my hand and my forearm. I never thought of it as being a reminder. Choice, you know. How did you get yours?
Well, one day, this was maybe 6 years after the old gods had died and the new gods came to their power. I was sitting at home, and I was writing a letter to my brother. And it was late at night, and I had a candle burning on my desk. I was writing this letter, and as I was forming the words on the page, I sort of began to think to myself about what I was doing with myself and with my life, and how I had not really been what I had intended to when I was a child. And I sat there and I closed my eyes very tightly. And I thought about what I wanted and who I wanted to be. And I sat there and I had my eyes closed and my fists were clenched very tightly. And I remember blacking out and reawakening in this empty space. I was floating in the void. And I could see everything that I had once valued in my life with these little pieces of gold and silver floating around me, and things and objects, and a fancy house up on the hill off in the distance. And all of these things melted away and burned into ash. And when I reawoke, the candle had been knocked over onto my desk, lighting the whole thing on fire. But my hands were still clenched and put down on the table, and my eyes were still closed. And as I opened them, my arm was engulfed in this flame. And I quickly had to run and grab one of my robes and put it over it. And I had to put out the fire. But by the time I had put it out, the damage was already done. And by the time the flames subsided into embers and ash, I was, well, you could call it reborn. And I didn't know what it meant for a while, but eventually I found others that were like me, and I found a teacher, and now you find me here. We have a worship service starting soon. Would you... I would be honored to have you sit and watch and see. If you would be open to that.
I shuffle kind of awkwardly in my seat. It's like I'm a little too tall for it. Yes, I'd like that. What's your name, by the way, lass?
My name is Aura. Aura Goldenhull.
Aura. I'm Ceallach the Ace. Thank you for speaking with me.
You are very welcome. And you are welcome in this house of Zachariel anytime.
I look up at it. Welcome anytime, eh? I hope that's true.
Well, I only speak truth. And she sort of pats you on the back, and she gets up, and she sort of walks away, and she begins tending to one of the fire pits that still doesn't have anything in it. She seems to be sort of swiping away some of the dirt and the ashes that have accumulated there to make way for the new fire that's about to be lit there. And after the next 20 minutes or so, you sit there and you wait in your seat, and people begin to file in. You can hear conversation happening outside the building, but as soon as people walk in, it sort of turns into these hushed whispers, and some of the conversation still continues, but as soon as they get in, sort of almost as respect, they sort of quiet their tones, and they walk in, and they meet their seats, and they come in, and you sit for a full service of this worship. And it lasts a couple of hours, but you are, taking mental notes of everything that's going on. You are looking around and seeing how people are affected here. And it is the exact opposite of the Temple of Leytel. People here are quiet, they are solemn, they are sort of introspective. And as these fires are initially lit, the initial burst of fire is like it's a roaring fire, but after a couple minutes it dies down, and you can see that that more of these disciples in the gray leather armor come in and are tending now to the fire that is almost completely died, and once again they're keeping it sort of on that verge of dying. And about an hour into the service, as you can see, Aura is then coming around and sort of has a bowl of ashes in front of her, and you can still see some of the embers in there. She just every person that she comes across, she takes some, and she wipes it down the bridge of their nose, and then sort of comes down almost like across their cheeks and sort of down towards the bottom of their ear. And she goes by and she does that to a couple people, and she comes by and you have to sort of bend down in order for her to reach up. But as she does that to you, the ashes are still hot. These are they just came out of the fire, and it sort of hurts for a second. But you can't really, everyone here is quiet, so you can't really yell out or do much. So you just sort of sit there and you allow it to happen. And the rest of the service is fairly quiet, with every once in a while someone will go up to the embers and bow their heads and say a little prayer to themselves. And the whole environment is very you guys are worshiping together, but it's very much feeling like an individual connection sort of thing. Even though there are 50, 60 people around you, everyone is sort of having their own personal journey that they're going through. And their own sort of truths that they're trying to find. And with that, after a couple of hours, the fire is allowed to die as the disciples sort of walk away, and people one by one start filtering out. You can see as some of the dwarves and some of the halflings are lifting their heads up from their prayer, you can see they're wiping some tears away that might have fallen down their face. And one by one, some families walk out together. Some people walk out individually. The hall clears once more. Would you like to head out with them, or would you like to stay a little bit?
I'll stay a little bit, and I'll just approach Aura as the service is wrapping up. And I'll just say, this might be a silly question, Aura. Why not just have a full flame? Why let it be ashes? Embers.
Well, as I told you, I can only tell you the truth. And I must admit that is an answer I do not know.
Well, I guess I can respect your honesty then. Appreciate it. Maybe it's something to do with, the edge. The edge of things. I feel as though I'm on the cusp of something. And so too are the dying embers of a fire. But don't let me give you a sermon. Take care, Aura. Thank you.
And you as well. Thank you. And she bows her head and she walks away.
I very nearly instinctively say, may the light, and then I just take care. And I'll saunter out of the hall.
Okay. And at this point, you walk out and the sunlight hits you, almost sort of blinding you for a moment, as the inside of this temple was relatively dark, and the light hits you, and you can hear just off to your left. At this point, it's probably like 1 p.m. You can still hear off to your left the doom, 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 doom from the drums off at Leytel's temple as people are still partying hard. Music is going. You can still see dancers, and it is it's kind of a weird feeling walking out of this temple alongside all of these people who are quietly contemplating their sort of existence and their place in the universe, to then see people like leaving the temple of Leytel just partying and like sweating from how much they were dancing. And it's definitely a contrast, and you just take note of that as you leave. So with that, you walk out of the temple. What would you like to do?
Retroactively, when I was looking at the map,
yeah,
was there a clear, or maybe when I was walking out of our hostel, would there have been a weapons shop, or maybe even like a smithy or something to that effect?
Yeah, for sure. So you would have taken note of a shop called the Early Stone's Ire. And it is a shop that sells weaponry, potions, sort of like it does seem to be like an adventurer's sort of place, but with the intention of like being a supply store for the heavy military presence in the city. It seems to be like a very specialized sort of store that the military goes there if they need a special weapon, a special potion, stuff like that. So,
artisanal.
Okay. Exactly. Artisanal weaponry. So it's called the Early Stone's Ire, and it is sort of on your way back towards the inn. You leave the temple district. You walk in towards sort of the shopping district, and walking along the road, you come across a like gallows that you didn't really expect to see, but they're sort of like it's like shop, gallows, shop. It's like right in the middle of everything.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And you see that there are 3 nooses hung there, but only one is occupied. And as you walk past, you see it looks to be some sort of humanoid. You can't tell, looks to be the stature of either a human or an elf. And you can't quite tell because a bag is covering their faces. They're hanging there limp. They are covered in these deep purple robes, and you can see sort of like a beaded belt around their waist with different pouches coming off of it, sort of similar to Drek, sort of in the way that there's like component pouches and then a couple of magic items, things of that sort. And you look, and there's a sign hanging from their neck. You can't tell if it's male or female. And in the sign, it says in Dwarven, and then under it in Common, it says spy. Just hanging there, limp. People seem to be walking by without giving it any notice.
I mean, they're dead, correct? This is a hanged.
Yeah. You don't even need to make a medicine check. This is like, you can see like there are a couple flies starting to move around the body. Yeah.
What if my truth is against all this? What then? And I'll take a note of the robes. Are the robes of this person, they're not reminiscent of robes of any temple culture that
nothing
I know.
you've really seen before. No, they're like this deep purple. There's a couple of different layers. Like the inner layer of cloth is a slightly lighter purple, and then it gets a little bit darker, and then the final cloak on the outside is a darker purple, and it's just got like some silver sort of adornments on it. But yeah, you take a note of that, and as you continue walking down the street, you see up on your right-hand side the Early Stones Ire. You walk up, you open the door with a little bell chime as you walk in, and you see a dwarven man behind the counter, and he is sort of placing some potions out on the counter, and as you walk in, you are the only one in here right now. He says, "Oh, hi, welcome to the Early Stones Ire. What can I do for you?"
Good afternoon. Nice place you have here.
Thank you.
I'm not a combatant of the up-close persuasion, but I was wondering, I have a tool, let's say, and I pull my sickle from its holster on my hip, a little hand sickle, and I'll place it on the counter. I'll say, I find it's come in handy for farming, medical application, and the occasional deterrent of pests, let's say. But lately, I've come into tougher combat, and I'm kind of I used to be concerned, about the let's say grim nature of such an instrument, but more recently I find myself appreciating the simplicity. Is there any way we could either improve this one, or I don't know if you have something similar on hand that I might use?
Yeah,
it might be
let me take
a little
look.
more lethal.
Let me take a look. And as you set it down on the counter, he sort of looks it over. He says, "Oh yeah, fine weapon. Looks like a good make. Just seems to be pretty well worn at this point.
Seeing a lot of use.
I would definitely be able to fix it up for you, sharpen the edge, and sort of bring it back to its youth, you could say. And I would be able to do that for you, or I could just sell you something that I have if you would like to take a look at some options that I have."
Let me see what you got on stock here.
Okay. And he sort of takes you over, and he opens one of these drawers, and there are all of these drawers on the walls. Like all of the walls are sort of like these, almost like museum drawer type, that you keep artifacts in. And he pulls one of them open, and it's got 3 sickles laying there. And he says, this first one over here is just, your standard run-of-the-mill weapon. Nothing too special about it. And that would just be 1 gold piece, and just kind of a standard weapon. Very similar to, I'm sure, what you had over here previously. And then you've got this one, which is a little bit better. It's going to be also a little bit more expensive. It just adds a little bit of a magical kick to any damage that you might be inflicting on others. And so it's a little bit sharper on the edge, and it's just got a little bit of a magical sheen to it that I've inlaid. And then, so that one is going to be 20 gold pieces. And then, I'm sorry, this last one over here is 20 gold pieces. This one is going to be 10 gold pieces. The last one over here, that's 20 gold pieces. This one is, of course, my personal favorite. It is has a little bit of that same magical kick, but it also does a little bit more than that. There is like a burst of light that comes with it that does some additional damage to whatever you might be swinging this at. So, with your choice, what would you like?
Light being something of a hot-button topic, as it may, that does appeal to me. Does this one have the same magical kick to it as its predecessor?
Yes, it's the same thing, just with an additional magical enchantment.
It's not much of a choice then, is it? I used to only look after myself, and lately got a lot of others to look after. So I can't be wishing that I didn't splurge for the better item. I'll take this one, and I'll point to the third option.
Okay, and that is going to be 20 gold pieces.
All right, I hand it over.
Okay, awesome. So that is going to be a +1 sickle, and on a hit you get to add an additional 1d4 radiant damage.
Sick. You might as I not wrap it up, because I'm just gonna holster the thing. And I can I holster it adjacent to my other one? I'm gonna keep both of them if I can.
Sure.
And as I do that, I'll say, you might meet up with a little halfling at some point later today. Don't let him haggle you. Don't let him do it. He's a little halfling. He's quite chipper. He's got a big backpack with pockets on the sides. Stick to your prices, Don't let him talk you down.
There's been a couple of halflings that have come through here today. So I usually don't let them haggle me too much.
That's good. And I'll wryly turn away and sort of snicker to myself as I leave the store.
Okay.
And as I make my way back, you said there's a bakery initially. I wanna stop at that bakery and pick up a couple pastries. I'll get two lemon pastries, as big as I can get.
Okay.
And I will get one sandwich or toast without I will get just crusts. I will purchase just crusts.
Okay. We'll call that 1 silver piece for the total.
Okay. I don't know, what time of day is it?
Right now it's approaching like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I will. I'll make my way back to the inn to see if everyone is awake or not.
Okay. As you make your way back to the inn, you walk inside, open the door, you go upstairs, and no one is there. Everyone seems to be out for the day. The head of Thaddeus is no longer on the dresser. And yeah, you don't see anyone from your party.
Well, I will leave the bag of goodies in the room, and I will. Wish I had more money. I'll just go spend all my money. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go back to the Leytel temple.
Okay. You will make your way across town, and at this point, the loud music has subsided, and as you're walking up towards the Temple of Leytel, you hear just a couple of string instruments and maybe a wind instrument or two, not playing this loud, erupting music anymore. But as you look in and see, you see just like this band, the band that was like standing up and getting into it and dancing while they were playing. Now it's looks like a different band, sitting down, all sort of very like meticulously and sort of like artfully playing their instruments, this a little bit slower song. And you can see now that most of the people have left and like the party portion of it has stopped, you can see the temple is now a little bit more open, and you can see like a designated dance floor in the middle. And you can just see, going along with this kind of whimsical music that's playing, you can see three dwarves doing sort of like slower interpretive dances, almost like ballet, in the center, as most of the crowd has left at this point.
Is there still singing?
Yes, yeah, but it's not the shouting singing that you had heard earlier. It's a little bit quieter, more of a like a quieter performance.
And is there anyone, as I'm sort of making my way into the temple, is there anyone in the crowd singing along?
Yeah, looking out, you can see a couple of people are sort of like tapping their foot and like sort of moving along towards the music, but there is one man, an old dwarven man, wrinkles all over his face, completely white beard and hair, sitting close to the center, and he is singing along with the music. He seems to know the song.
I'm gonna taking a deep breath, approach him and give him a light nod and just say, I'm sorry to intrude, but I think you could teach me the song.
Oh, I'm not much of a teacher, but I would be more than happy to do that. Yeah, yes. And he reaches into his back pocket and he pulls out this little booklet. And he flips through a couple of the pages, and you can see it's all like handwritten stuff. And as he opens to a certain page, and he goes, "Oh no, that's not it. That's not that. Oh, here it is. Here it is." And he sort of puts his finger down on the page and sort of motions along with the lyrics as he has the lyrics written down on his page. And he sort of starts nodding his head at the rhythm towards you and begins singing along and sort of showing you the lyrics of the song.
And I will sheepishly but diligently commit those lyrics to memory and internalize the melody.
Okay. All right. And the song comes to a close, and there's a new song that starts playing, and the old man goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think I have this one written down." And he reaches into his other back pocket and pulls out another notebook, and he starts flipping through it. And you can see most of the pages here are blank as he pulls out a little pencil, and he starts like writing down the lyrics of this song that's currently being played.
And what's the language that's being used in these anthems? Is it Dwarvish or is it
the previous
common?
one was common. This one that's being played right now is Dwarvish, and so you can see like he's writing it down in Dwarvish, where the previous song that was in common he wrote in common.
I will not stop him. I'll just let him do that and gratefully accept the kindness of this job.
Okay.
And do my best to just sort of mumble mouth my way along with him.
All right. And with that, you leave the Temple of Leytel with a little bit of a song in your heart as you now head back towards the inn once more. It's starting to become evening at this point. The sun not quite setting over the horizon just yet, but you head back to the inn. You head back up to the room. Still, no one has returned yet. And you sit there on the bed. And as you sit down, this was kind of a very intense day for you. There are a lot of information coming your way. So you take a moment as you're sitting there to sort of think back and really internalize all of this stuff. Really like remember everything and commit as much as you can to memory. And as you're doing that and thinking about the Temple of Leytel and sort of the emotions that came with that versus the realizations that you came to at the Temple of Zachariel, and you're like thinking of all these things, and as you're sitting there on the bed, you sort of come to this realization that, you know, the words of Aura really hit you, that were your truths are your own, and there's no like universal, this is the way to do it, and you sort of feel a sense of comfort in the fact that your journey is your own. And with that, you level up.
What?
And with that, as you're sitting there on the bed, waiting for the rest of your party to get back, that is where we're going to end today's session.
Hot dog.
That
was a quick level up.
Yeah.
DM Ethan.
Well, you got a lot of stuff done. You got a lot of religious things
busy
done.
Day.
Busy day. All right. But with that, we're going to end today's session. Thank you all so much for listening, and we can't wait to see y'all again next week. Bye, nerds.
Bye, nerds.
Hey, everybody. This is Cameron. I do the character of Shreya on Venture Forth. Just wanted to take a moment. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube if you're not already. Also, if you'd like, you can check us out on Patreon. And if you'd like to support what makes the podcast possible, please feel free to support. Also, we're on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, feel free to drop in on Thursdays where we do our weekly Dungeons & Dragons chat or one-shot. And those tend to be a lot of fun. So have a great week ahead. Thanks again for listening, and see y'all again next week.